This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Farmers near Portage La Prairie are shaken up and looking for answers. They say crime in rural Manitoba is out of control and getting worse. It comes after a number of farms were robbed by armed suspects over the weekend and have many fearing for safety. For more, we're joined by the CBC's Ian Fraze live in the newsroom. So, Ian, this came up during question period. What do we know so far?
Well, farmers west of Portage La Prairie in the McGregor area say they're shocked at how brazen this crime is. Now, as you are about to see in the footage we're about to show you, people are seen wearing masks, one of them appearing to carry a firearm. Now, this is security footage from one farm. Police say that 3 farms were ultimately broken into. We don't know yet if the footage that we're seeing here is confirmed to be one of the farms that police are investigating, but that investigation continues. Police saying that a truck, ATV, and power tools were all taken. So far, 1 person has been arrested. Now, the farmer whose property we see in this video did not want to be interviewed, but his cousin Mark Klippenstein says one of the suspects was training a gun on the garage.
People don't usually run around with brandishing weapons. But yeah, it was very concerning. It didn't look real. Like, it looked like out of a movie or like South Africa or something like that.
It's gut-wrenching to see people unload out of a vehicle in a farmyard with assault rifles and get positioned as though they're not just there to take material items, but they're there to fight a much bigger battle if that's the case.
That's PCMLA Jody Byram. She says the NDP government needs to do more to address this crime and spend more time worrying about the crime that happens outside the perimeter.
So, Ian, in other crime news, safety concerns are being flagged once again in Thompson's Hospital. What happened this time?
Well, a nurse says there is constant abuse. There's fights involving violent patients that are breaking out, and their bosses haven't responded to any formal complaints made by staff. This is all included in a letter brought up Monday in question period. The nurse in question asking for panic buttons and weapon detectors to be installed. Progressive Conservative health critic Kathleen Cook says action needs to be taken.
They feel unheard by the NDP government. They've raised these concerns multiple times over the last year, and nothing's been done to address their concerns.
Now, the Health Minister, Uzoma Asaguera, says they've been in touch with the nurse. The government's budget announced funding for institutional safety officers to be employed at that hospital. These are officers that have more specialized training in techniques like de-escalation. No timeline yet for when that will be revealed. Brittany.
All right, thank you, Ian. That's CBC's Ian Fraze. A Manitoba First Nation chief accused of sexually assaulting a child was attacked on his way into court today. That's according to his lawyer, who pushed to have his trial postponed. CBC's Rosanna Hempel has the latest from today's hearing.
The chief of Lake St. Martin First Nation, Christopher Travers, did not show up Monday morning for the second day of his trial. His lawyer, Candace Olson, told the court he'd been assaulted and injured here outside the Winnipeg Law Courts on his way in. Olson said 2 people have been arrested in connection to the assault, which court heard was related to his trial. Police would not confirm any arrests, but said all parties are being identified and spoken to. Travers has pleaded not guilty to all 4 charges, including sexual assault, sexual interference, as well as possessing and making child pornography. The alleged offenses happened in December 2023. On the first day of his trial last week, court heard video testimony from the alleged child victim, who was 8 at the time. The girl described how Travers, her mother's boyfriend at the time, forced her into a bathroom at his home, sexually assaulted her, then took explicit photos of her. A key piece of photographic evidence was only disclosed to the defense before court that day, which led Olson to ask for an adjournment to review the metadata of the picture. Today, she asked the judge for more time to do so because she'd only just gotten that metadata this morning, and she also wanted more time to deal with her client's assault. The Crown did not object, and the judge granted the defense's request and increased security at the trial going forward. The next date is scheduled for June 24th. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A City of Winnipeg employee is facing several highway traffic infractions after an alleged hit and run that left a woman hospitalized with serious injuries. But police say he will not face criminal charges. CBC's Gavin Axelrod has the latest.
Margaret Justine Kobenis Jr. says she's traumatized, scared, and still hurting after being struck by a vehicle in South Osborne last month. She broke several bones, including her pelvis, shoulder, ribs, and collarbone that she needed surgery for.
I still have a broken pelvis and I can't walk and I can no longer take care of my children. It's really frustrating.
On Monday, police said a City of Winnipeg employee was arrested and faces 3 charges under Manitoba's Highway Traffic Act: driving carelessly, failing to yield to a pedestrian, and failing to provide his information to the injured person. Police say he turned himself in April 2nd. Kobenis says the charges he faces feel like a slap on the wrist. Police say the Highway Traffic Act has both set fines and penalties that are determined by the courts, and say generally speaking, courts can decide if jail time is necessary for some offenses.
They just don't fall under the criminal realm. That might be, for example, cause death or impaired charges, for example, that are under the criminal code.
Police say the man was driving a Ford Transit panel van registered to the city. Police wouldn't say how old the man is because they don't want to identify him. The City of Winnipeg isn't commenting and says this is a police and human resources matter. The charges have not been formally laid. Gavin Axelrod, CBC News, Winnipeg.
As the trade war with the U.S. continues, some people across the country have decided to forego trips to the United States, avoiding travel south of the border. Back here at home, tourism groups are looking to take advantage of that patriotism and encourage people to vacation closer to home. CBC's Felicia Adam has more.
It's about staying close to home.
When Manitoba is home, you don't have to go far to take your heart on a journey.
From fishing, seeing polar bears and whales, to the Northern Lights, Travel Manitoba wants people to visit what they call the heart of Canada, and they're getting a $4.5 million boost from the province to do it.
Encouraging Manitobans to explore their own backyard and encouraging Canadians to visit Manitoba, maybe for the first time, or if they're expats, get them to come home for a while.
As tensions with the U.S. continue over tariffs, Travel Manitoba's Colin Ferguson says provinces are looking to attract visitors.
All of Canada is doing the same thing. They're all upping their game. They're all trying to convince people to stay home or to travel within their own province.
Numbers from the U.S. Customs Border Protection show the number of visitors that crossed the land border from Canada into the U.S. in February dropped nearly 500,000 people compared to the previous year. Manitoba's Tourism Minister Nellie Kennedy says now is a good time to invest in tourism here as people look to support local businesses and spend more money at home.
We have a beautiful country, and so there are amazing places that you can go right within your own country, and we want people to seriously consider Manitoba as being one of those places.
Travel Manitoba says the money will go into promoting the province on billboards, social media, and online. 10% of it will be put into growing Indigenous tourism Manitoba. Ferguson says he's hopeful there will be an increase in the number of visitors from the over 10 million that visited in 2023. Felicia Adam, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Well, traveling around the province with your electric vehicle may soon get a little bit easier. The government says 51 new charging docks will be installed around the province. The provincial government says $500,000 will go towards the project to help boost the EV network and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. It includes chargers in Brandon, Portage, Morden, Steinbach, and other places. Let's bring in Riley Lachek. And Riley, it is spring. You are the man of the hour because everybody wants to know when we are hitting those double digits you talked about.
Yeah, we'll get there later in the week. We have a little bit to get through first before we get to those more spring, late spring-like temperatures even. High pressure keeping us nice and sunny for the most part across the province today. It was nice to see the sun and a nice hot sun out there as well, even if temperatures were held back a bit. A bit of cloud cover in northern parts of the province. Getting up to the freezing mark in Winnipeg and Brandon today as well, really right around or just above the freezing mark through much of the south. Thompson even getting to a pretty pleasant 0 this afternoon. Looking at a mostly clear sky tonight, that will allow temperatures to drop to a little bit closer to the seasonal mark overnight tonight at -6 in Winnipeg. Winds pick up as we get through the day tomorrow, so starting at -5 first thing in the morning, up to 8 degrees in the afternoon. Partly cloudy skies, helped in part by that southeasterly wind up to 40 in the afternoon, so a bit breezy. And yes, I will talk about those double digits when I come back.
Okay, thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Morden has a growing Muslim population. I'm Rosanna Hempel, and coming up, we'll bring you more on how changes in this city are helping some feel more at home.
Manitoba's Muslim community is growing in life and in death. In Morden, it means building not only a new place to come and pray together, but ensuring there is a space for final resting place for people's loved ones. CBC's Rosanna Hempel has more on a new initiative in the Pembina Valley.
It's a new place to come together and pray. Soon, the Pembina Valley Muslim community will also have a final resting place in Morden for their loved ones.
This is very important. Like if I want to build a generation here, like this place is actually helping us do that.
SK Rubayat Zaman is the director of Morden's first mosque, which opened in November. He says the area's Muslim community has grown to nearly 150 families in the last 5 years, and many are choosing to stay because they feel safe and welcomed. Zaman says the addition of a Muslim burial site and mosque in Morden will help them feel even more rooted.
So this is the Muslim burial area.
According to Islamic customs, graves are oriented differently so people can face the Kaaba in Mecca, and they're also separated from non-Muslim burial places. The first sites will be ready this year.
Whenever death happens in the family, we have to send them to Winnipeg, or it's a very cumbersome and very lengthy procedure.
The city and Muslim community have arranged to set aside land for a Muslim burial site at the city's newest cemetery, Lakeside Cemetery. It would become the second one in Manitoba outside Winnipeg.
First phase would be would be this side.
Zaman worked with the city to get everything right. Being inclusive was important for the city's director of parks, Sean Diaz.
It just allows them to have more growth. It allows them to have kind of more connection to the region. And it shows that, open arms, the city of Morden is willing to engage and support with these groups. So overall, it's been a really positive experience. It's been a learning experience.
Steve Reynolds with Regional Connections Immigrant Services credits this kind of approach with helping newcomers feel at home. Reynolds says the Pembina Valley area has welcomed people from more than 130 countries. He says the retention rates show efforts have largely been successful.
But a few of the local immigration programs have measured it at a year and had anywhere from 80 to 95% at a year, which is really high.
Syed Faizan Nasser with the Pembina Valley Islamic Society says the changes are already making a difference.
We have a couple of friends who were planning to move from here and they decided not to move.
Changes that are keeping the community and families together. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Morden.
It was a sea of red and white outside the Manitoba legislature yesterday. Thousands of people came together to celebrate Canada and stand up for the country's sovereignty. CBC's Gavin Axelrod has more.
A show of unity for the country. Manitobans rallied outside the legislature Sunday as Canadian pride surges amidst a trade war with the U.S. and threats of annexation from President Donald Trump.
It's very disrespectful to have brought that up, and that's how I feel. I'm sure the whole country feels that.
And it's pretty simple. When our sovereignty is threatened, you do what you can just to show that this is where we want to be and we want to stay Canadian.
The rally was organized by the Manitoba government with face paint, food trucks, bouncy castles and games, the great Canadian tradition of street hockey, and musical performances from children's entertainer Fred Penner and others. A space for parents to talk to their kids.
I think just respecting others well, how you want to be treated.
For his future and his children's future, he needs to know what's going on for, like I said, his family and onward.
Manitoba Premier Wab Canoe says kids are part of the reason for Sunday's rally.
They always come up and they ask me, so is somebody going to take over Canada? Are we going to become a different country? And what I tell them is the same thing that you're here to tell them, no way.
And some of those youngsters at the event had some stuff to get off their chest.
We just want to stay Canada. We don't want to be 51st state. We're going to be Canada. We don't want to change. We like it here. We can improve, but we don't want to be the United States too.
And like many others who were there, they hope that message reaches Canada's neighbor to the south, while looking forward to better days between the two countries. Gavin Axelrod, CBC News, Winnipeg.
I love what the little guy said. We like it here, we can improve. We can always improve. What we're looking to improve right now, the weather.
I knew you were going there.
It has not been awful. It was a pretty nice weekend.
Yes.
But I know that roller coaster, we are back on that upswing now,
Yeah.
which is where so many of us have been waiting to get to.
Exactly. A few things kind of holding us from that, at least in the short term. I'm going to start with our upper level winds. Here's what's happening on the upper levels of the atmosphere. We'll take a closer look in here in a moment, but we have a bit of a blocking pattern here that's kind of kept things from moving along here. So high pressure over the territories, high pressure down into Texas, coupled by a couple areas of low pressure back on the Pacific and into eastern Ontario. That's kind of got this ridge of high pressure just stuck here over Alberta and Saskatchewan, which have enjoyed some pretty warm temperatures today. We're on the cold side of that. This will start to budge and kind of shift out of here as we start to see things changing as we get into the next couple of days. But at least for now, we're stuck into temperatures closer to seasonal, thanks in part to this area of high pressure close to the surface. And what that has done is really cleared our skies out, left us with a mainly sunny sky throughout the day today. This holds as we get into the day on Tuesday. So we start sunny once again, but as we get later into the evening hours and into overnight Wednesday morning, we start to see some cloud building in. A weak disturbance, a frontal boundary out ahead of that, maybe bringing us a few showers into early Wednesday morning in Winnipeg, through the Interlake and even up to Flin Flon and the Pas. Potential for some mixing, maybe even a few more flurries yet to come. So we're not quite done with the snow just yet across the province. This really does fail to organize in any substantial form. So I think through Wednesday, chance of some scattered showers out of some of this cloud cover really across southern Manitoba. And then we'll start to get on the upside here and start to warm our temperatures up as we head toward the weekend. So you can see that block that's kind of stuck here. It starts to slowly move out of the way as we get toward the weekend. But once we get into the weekend, that's when we start to see things normalizing a little bit. We get stuck into a more southerly flow here, and that's going to allow those temperatures to jump up into the double digits. And you'll see in the 5-day forecast here, some temperatures actually closer to even more summer-like by the time we get toward the weekend. Rainfall, yes, we're actually talking about rainfall today. We're not talking about snowfall projections. Looking at maybe a couple millimeters out of some of that cloud cover that rolls through later Tuesday into Wednesday, so nothing substantial. I know we need a good soaking rain across much of southern Manitoba, not in the cards, but we'll take what we can get for now as we head into the spring growing season. -5 first thing in the morning for Winnipeg, actually very seasonal for a wake-up temperature. -7s, -8s into the Parkland, and even still -21 into Churchill first thing in the morning. 5 or 8 degrees on the way for Tuesday, 9 for Wednesday, and Brittany, how about 19 for Saturday?
All right,
We have a little bit of rain to get through between now and then, but we'll try.
We'll try. Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
We have more to come right after this. Stay with us. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. It's been another rocky trading day for world stock markets. Share prices saw major fluctuations and in many cases big drops. Markets closed with a third day of losses as investors continue to react to Donald Trump's tariff wars. There are also fears it could sink the global economy. Anis Hadari has the latest.
Markets around the world starting off with losses on Monday, the third trading day in a row where stocks and other investments show red. A big reason it's still happening, investors just don't know what tariffs are coming or going.
What everyone's doing is trying to adjust to this new reality and then selling off stocks to say until they get further notice.
Briefly this morning, some stocks jumped into positive territory on speculation a tariff pause was coming. No dice, said the White House, and markets dropped again. One thing is certain, investors and their money have seen big drops over the last few days. From oil and gas to agriculture to manufacturing to tech, market indicators have been dropping across multiple sectors. It's hard for anyone to know if any industry is a sure bet.
Here's the thing, we don't have enough information. The variables are still moving. I don't know how long these tariffs are going to be in play. I don't know if they're going to go up or down. I don't know if they're going to be negotiated away. All I can tell you right now is if you're running a business, you're flying blind right now.
CEOs in the United States and economists around the world have been warning that tariffs will slow down economic growth. Along with inflation coming from the higher prices tariffs can bring, it would mean a bad economic combination for everyone, not just people losing money on the stock market. Anis Hadari, CBC News, Calgary.
The global market mayhem couldn't be ignored on the federal campaign trail. Nearly all the party leaders offered election promises to help offset the impact on Canadians. Evan Dyer has details.
We are all watching the stock market with interest today. We have to acknowledge that this chaos is the direct result of wrong-headed, unnecessary, chaotic policies coming from President Trump.
Disrupting the global economy, global financial markets, by directly targeting Canadian workers and by fundamentally reshaping the international trading system.
Liberal and Conservative leaders both had proposals to shield Canadian savings from the ongoing market turmoil caused by the U.S. tariffs. Retirees, perhaps, impacted the most.
We've proposed to delay by 2 years the time when seniors must withdraw their savings from their RSP and be taxed on it. This 2-year delay will save many seniors from being forced to crystallize losses they're experiencing on the stock market today.
We will reduce the minimum amount that must be withdrawn from registered retirement income funds by 25% for the next year.
The Liberals also promised a temporary boost of 5% to the guaranteed income supplement.
The markets are tumbling again. Consumer confidence is down, inflation's happening, investment is stalled, and I'm thoroughly disappointed he's taken this avenue.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford says his province will also provide relief to those affected.
We just gave $3 billion to workers, $200 rebate check to every Ontarian that filed their taxes. But we'll always be there to protect the people and their communities and their businesses.
Bloc leader Yves-François Blanchet, struggling with a Liberal surge in Quebec, said the market turmoil probably favours Mark Carney.
I believe there's been a narrative at the very beginning of this campaign. People were told Trump, danger, Carney. And when people feel or fear something, the first to present an answer might have an advantage.
Trump showed no sign today he's ready to back off his tariffs, so all campaigns can expect more market disruption and perhaps more calls to protect Canadians from it as Election Day draws closer. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
Now, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh started a new week of campaigning in Toronto, promising to help build affordable homes.
Our plan is to build 3 million homes in the next 5 years. Not just build those homes, but build homes that people can actually afford.
Singh's plan includes $16 billion in funds over 4 years, split evenly between 2 housing programs. The announcement comes on the heels of his pledge to protect tenants by imposing national rent control. Singh also met with those who lost jobs in the Hudson's Bay bankruptcy. He says his government would pass legislation to ensure workers get paid ahead of creditors when a company declares bankruptcy. Meantime, Mark Carney is in BC for the first time in this campaign, and the Liberal leader is promising to do more to protect Canada's natural habitats.
The new Liberal government will move forward with 10 new national parks and marine conservation areas, along with creating 15 new national urban parks across Canada. At the same time, we will make national parks and historic sites free for all Canadians this upcoming summer.
Carney says he will also reintroduce clean drinking water legislation for First Nations and is promising a new $100 million fund to protect freshwater resources. When asked if his environmental policy conflicts with his plan to boost oil and gas production and exports, Carney said the federal government can do both at the same time, in part by using technology to help bring down emissions. And Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is also campaigning in BC. He's promising to create a single office to handle all regulatory approvals for major resource projects like pipelines and roads to speed up the process.
We'll handle all regulatory approvals across all levels of government so businesses don't have to waste time navigating through dozens of different agencies at 3 different levels of government. It's not about reducing our environmental or public safety protections. It's about merging them into one simplified step instead of overlapping processes.
Poilievre says he would impose a 1-year limit on approval wait times. He's promising to rapidly approve 10 resource projects that he says have been stuck in limbo, including the expansion of a liquefied natural gas export terminal in northern BC. Voters in 2 Edmonton ridings could make a big difference in this election. Both are swing seats with the potential to deliver key victories or defeats to all 3 major parties. Sam Sampson explains.
At Rogue Wave Coffee, it's party in the front, beans in the back. The 10-year-old company ships its coffee around the world and pours it out in a central Edmonton storefront. Part owner Dave Laville wants an MP who can help his business and neighborhood thrive.
Candidates that support local organizations, and if they are voted in, that they really will push hard to see this riding improve.
Around here, every vote counts.
It is exciting to be in a riding where all 3 parties have a chance of winning.
Edmonton Centre has historically flipped between the Liberals and the Conservatives. The Liberals won the riding in 2021 with a 1.3 margin of victory. This race is tight, and now it's wide open. Incumbent Randy Boissonneau, a former cabinet minister, is not running again after last year's controversy over his shifting Indigenous heritage and questionable business dealings. Now, new Liberal candidate lawyer Eleanor Olszewski and Conservative Saeed Ahmed, a director in Alberta's health department, are squaring off. But this political scientist says the NDP's Tricia Estabrooks makes things interesting, with name recognition as a former CBC reporter turned school trustee.
There's probably some likelihood that there will be vote splitting that'll benefit the Conservatives here.
The NDP comfortably won Edmonton Strathcona last time and wants to keep the riding of Edmonton-Griesbach, where they narrowly beat out the Conservatives in 2021. A riding where some voters don't yet seem to be swayed.
I have voted Conservative, Liberal, NDP, everything but Green, and I've lost faith in the whole system.
I'm thinking about voting strategically, just like I have a certain party I don't like and I would prefer them not to get seats.
An Edmonton win means Western representation for the Liberals. For the NDP, these ridings could help secure official party status. And for the Conservatives, a win around here means Northern Alberta could prove true to blue. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Edmonton.
Just 3 weeks left for Canadians to cast their ballots. CBC News is extensively covering all aspects of the campaign across our platforms, whether it's comparing the party promises or seeing who's ahead in the polls. Here are some tools to help you make an informed vote on Election Day.
CBC News has a few online tools to help you make sense of the federal election. Comparing party platforms, seeing who's leading the polls, we've got you covered. Number 1, party platforms. Use this to read and compare the policies of the 6 main parties. Just click along the sidebar and you can read about the cost of living, housing, immigration, just to name a few. But be sure to dip in throughout the election. It'll be updated as parties add to their platforms. Number 2, the poll tracker. Here you can find daily updates about where each party stands in the race. It's an aggregate of publicly available polls from major polling companies. And by using that data, Poll Tracker can make a bunch of projections, like how many seats each party could win if an election were held today, the probability of each party winning a majority or minority, how party support breaks down across the country, and the tracker can also take you back and show you how party support has changed over time throughout Canada. And if you just want to look at an individual poll, we have them all organized by date. But be sure to check out the fine print. We include important context about methodology. And finally, number 3, Vote Compass. Use this to figure out how your views align with those of the parties and candidates. You answer a series of questions, and then Vote Compass creates a personal analysis of where you fit in the political landscape. And when you get your results at the end, you'll see different charts that break down how your views compare with the parties. Is your ideology more on the left or right? How much do you agree or disagree with overall party platforms? Your ranked preferences of leaders? And you can see how you align with parties on specific policies. The analysis is pretty in-depth, so you can email a copy to yourself. Keep in mind, this tool wasn't created by CBC News. It's made by Vox Pop Labs, an independent, nonpartisan group of social researchers and data scientists. All of these tools are now live on cbcnews.ca. I'm the election producer for Ask CBC News. If you have any other questions about the federal election, leave us a comment or email us at ask@cbc.ca.
Well, coming up, we're going to have a conversation about the role religion can play in politics and elections and whether that plays a role in how people vote. More on that straight ahead. We usually don't think about religion playing a role in elections and voting. John Longhurst is our regular faith contributor on Information Radio, and he's been looking into the role of religion and how people vote. He spoke to the CBC's Marcy Marcusa this morning.
So what did you find out just on the big question about this?
Well, I spoke to Sarah Wilkins-Laflamme. She's a professor of sociology at the University of Waterloo, and she studies the impact of religion on Canadian society. And based on her research, she says that religion plays a more important role in voting than we usually think. It's something that's not easily seen here as it is in the U.S. And she says it's as important as other factors such as age, gender, employment status, and education.
Can you give us some examples of that, of how religion might affect voting?
Well, sure. And for that, we need to turn to the 2021 Canadian election study by Statistics Canada. And according to what Sarah found in the study, the more religious Canadians are, the more they go to services, that is, the more they tend to vote Conservative. And the less religious they are, the less they go to church or any other place of worship, the more they lean towards the NDP, with some exceptions for mainline Protestants and Catholics. The study found that 33% of people who attend services once a month or more voted Conservative, while 28% voted Liberal and 14% voted NDP. 2% voted Green and 5% cast a vote for the People's Party. Of those who attended only once a year or so, the results are much closer. 29% voted Conservative, 28% Liberal, 17% NDP. But it's when you get to the people who don't go to church or other places of worship at all that you begin to see the bigger differences. And that's when you find out that the NDP is in the lead with 26% of voters.
So at least according to these statistics, going to church or other places of worship can be equated with voting Conservative.
Exactly. And that's the most important thing for evangelicals. The study found that 38% of Baptists voted Conservative, as did 41% of Pentecostals, 39% of Christian Reformed, and 43% of those who go to non-denominational churches like Springs or Church of the Rock here in Winnipeg. But the most important thing to note here in Canada is that while evangelicals tend to vote Conservative, many others vote for other parties too, like the Liberals or the NDP. In other words, Canadian evangelicals aren't like evangelicals in the United States. In that country, 80% of them voted for Donald Trump in the last election.
What about those who are not religious? What was the significance there when you looked at the data?
That's very significant now and into the future. 35% of Canadians today say they have no religious affiliation. They are the nones, N-O-N-E-S. When asked about the religious affiliation, they say they have none. That's up from 16% in 2001, and those people tend not to vote Conservative. And the reason that's important in Canada is because as that group increases in size and the group of traditional religious people decreases, it's going to have an impact on Conservative voting in this country.
Riley is back in,
Yes.
and we've been talking about just getting over the next little bit because double-digit temperatures we were looking at, and I know it is Monday, but already looking towards that Friday temperature.
Exactly, and I do caution that when you're looking at longer range forecasting like that, the numbers will change because you'll recall last week I was looking at double digits starting on Wednesday, but then as the forecast modeling improves, the closer that gets, the more, I guess, back to reality we get.
There's no promises when it comes
exactly.
to this.
It's one forecast model's depiction with a little bit of human information thrown into
we
that.
just really hope for.
Yeah, exactly. Dog walking forecast. Let's do that because it is always a certainty on this show that you'll get a dog walking forecast or some cats or something. Jigs, thank you, Doris, for sending this picture. And Jigs, just in from a walk. You can send your pics to talkback at cbc.ca. -5 first thing in the morning. A very seasonal start to the day tomorrow. East winds turn into southeasterly winds through the afternoon hours. Gusting up to 40, so a bit breezy tomorrow. Not a cold biting wind, but certainly you might notice a bit of a breeze out there into the afternoon and down to 1 degree by the time we hit the supper hour or into the evening hours. We'll see that temperature starting to drop off a bit. I wanted to show you the temperature gradient that we're seeing across Western Canada right now. Some of these temperatures temperatures 16s and 18s into parts of Alberta. Comparing that to our temperatures here in Manitoba, -2 in Dauphin, -16 in Churchill. So quite the spread. You can really see where that upper ridge has really tucked itself in here over Saskatchewan and Alberta, giving us some of those warmer temperatures. That is on the way. Looking at our 10-day temperature trend, a normal high for this time of the year, 8 degrees. You can see that climb up as that ridge pushes east as we get toward the weekend, and then we're back towards seasonal, 10, 12 degrees seasonal by the time we get to around the middle of the month. So yes, short-lived warm-up, but you know what? We'll take temperatures like these as we head to mid-April. These are pretty decent, if you ask me, for spring temperatures. Temperatures overnight, -3s to -6s in Westman, Dauphin -10 overnight, Kenora at -12 for your overnight temperature. Temperatures fairly seasonal across much of the north as well. Thompson at -12 this evening, -26 overnight in Shamattawa. Mostly sunny to start tomorrow. Bit of cloud hanging around, pushing toward the Hudson Bay coast. So by the afternoon, probably a bit more cloud than sun in places like Churchill at -9 by the afternoon. 4s through the Pas, OCN, Flin Flon, Lynn Lake. 3 in Grand Rapids through the afternoon hours. Tomorrow, a bit of cloud starts to build in as this frontal boundary starts to push its way in, which will have more of an impact on the south here, particularly in the southwest corner of the province. 8s through the afternoon in Brandon and Verdun. 6 in Dauphin. You can see when that cloud starts to build in here. Anytime you see some of this cloud, a chance that you could see a few sprinkles. So this is probably not exactly where it's going to rain tomorrow, but yes, there is the chance that we'll see a few showers in the west. Tomorrow, 8 degrees in Winnipeg, and Brittany, 3s and 4s into northwestern Ontario.
Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Grief can be overwhelming. It comes in many shapes and forms and can impact people in totally different ways. Film students in Sisler's Create program introduce us to 3 people who have all faced unexpected struggles with it.
So in 1998, I was playing volleyball in Europe. And I was forced to stop playing because of a major injury. I herniated a disc in my back that wouldn't allow me to perform at the level that I needed to be able to play. It wasn't really something that I wanted to accept, being injured and that part of my life being over.
Grief is what happens when we experience a loss, and it can be a variety of kinds of losses. So obviously the most devastating kind of loss is a death, but grief can also happen when we have other kinds of losses, things like loss of a job, or even a change in life, right? Maybe there's a health change that keeps us from doing some things that we used to love to do.
So I've always loved art as a kid, and I knew that I really wanted to go to an art school. I worked really hard in order to get to Vancouver Film School, and eventually when I got in, I felt really happy and overjoyed about that. After graduating from VFS is when I realized that I wouldn't be able to get a job immediately into the industry. I was upset for a while over, not being able to jump straight into what I loved.
That creates a hard time for people, right? They have a goal or a dream, and maybe they're not able to make that happen in a particular way. So then it's a matter of handling those feelings and then taking that energy and turning it into new opportunities.
My name is Harold Boychuk. I'm 83 years old. In my early years, I worked as a firefighter for the Winnipeg Fire Department. From that, I got into construction. I built my own cottage at the lake. I was very proud of the work that I did. I wasn't ready to retire. Mentally, I wasn't prepared for it. I wasn't looking forward to it.
When you experience a loss, it means that that person or that situation was really important to you.
Really, volleyball, that life experience was a small piece of the pie. There's still so much more to life than just that game. Although it might have been sort of crushing at the time, when I look back on it now as an older adult, I see that, that was just a really wonderful experience, and I'm glad I had it.
At the cottage, it was my way of getting over that retirement thing. Whenever I go there, I started looking at something else that I can build on, maintain like that. When you admit to yourself that no matter how much you don't want to slow down because of old age, you've got to have in your mind that you have no choice. And that in itself brought me some sadness. But in time, I got over it. Maybe I retired from what I was doing before, I'm not going to retire from being active.
I still think I had a very successful career despite my injury and having perhaps my career cut short. Yeah, I can still look back with a lot of thankfulness. I met a lot of great people and had a lot of great coaches, and I wouldn't change any of it.
I'm really happy that I got the chance to step back and not rush into things like how I usually would or how I would in the past. Dealing with grief has been kind of a new thing for me. I've kind of figured that, like, you know, you can learn a lot from grief, and that grief could eventually turn into growth.
Still ahead, a sticky yet delicious treat will take you to an annual Manitoba festival all about maple syrup after the break. Plus, Riley's back with a last check on our forecast. Stay with us.
So very seasonal for your Tuesday, up to 8 degrees. Sunrise tomorrow morning at 6:49 in the morning. So we're back to those early morning sunrises by 8 o'clock. We're into the sunshine already. Southeast winds A bit gusty in the afternoon, up to 40 by the afternoon tomorrow. Chance of showers out of some of this cloud cover as it moves through Wednesday. 10 degrees for Thursday, 15 for Friday. We'll keep pushing it. We'll try to get to 19 on Saturday. I think it's realistic. Oh, we'll see how we do by the time we get to the end of the week. 14 for Sunday, and then maybe some more showers on the way for Monday. Well, it was a maple rush in St. Pierre-Joli over the weekend. 2,000 people headed to the southeast Manitoba town for the Sugaring Off Festival.
Of course, the sap water harvested, boiled and cooled into taffy was one of the main attractions. The celebration of the town's heritage is our daily lift.
It's the beginning of spring, so what we're doing is celebrating the sap water that's being harvested from our maple trees here in St. Pierre. It's a historical, family-based festival, which is just good for everybody, and we finish off with taffy on the snow, and it's a very sweet treat. Families that do come to the site, they'll spend between an hour and a half to 2 hours on site because there's so many different displays, history-based. It's a beautiful community event.
The intent is to go back to a lot of the communities that have been traditionally have Métis ancestry, en français or in French, and go to them and essentially rediscover their community with them and be part of their festivities.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool.
We have
Great
a new little
weekend for that,
friend,
too. Oh,
Riley.
yeah, we do.
Who is this over here? Our viewers might remember we were talking about owls last Wednesday.
Yes.
Riley said he thought they were a little creepy. So we want to thank Alan, and I hope I'm saying this right, Eric, who sent us this lovely stuffed animal to bring wisdom, intuition, and the ability to navigate the unknown like our weather specialist for Riley, and hope you become a little bit more acquainted to our new owl friend.
I have to say it's very soft.
Yes.
And I appreciate the effort.
Thank you
I love
both
it.
so much. He's going to live in our newsroom. We're going to find a new home for him.
Such a nice treat to come in this morning to this. So
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Have a wonderful night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
have a good one. We'll see you.